Croeso, Dif Da, Bynachtin, Gia Hwitch, Fulcha, Daymat. Welcome to the Celtic Myths and Legends podcast. I am your humble host, Sian Esther Powell, and I'm going to be taking you on a journey through all the myths and legends of the 6 Celtic nations. That's Wales, Cornwall, Brittany, Isle of Man, Scotland and Ireland. Welcome. Hello everyone, it's been a really long time. I thought that it had been much longer though. I just double checked and apparently it's just been over 4 months since I last posted anything. Now, I was kind of very hyperbolic in my own mind, and I was thinking I've been gone 2,000 years, but no, it's only been just over 4 months, just over 4 months. I thought it had certainly been well over a year, half a year. Oh my god, this is why I don't podcast anymore, because I can't speak to myself. It used to be a great skill to talk to myself, and now I just don't want to talk to anyone, myself included. Really missing the podcast lately. 2, I've just received some really lovely messages from people. In fact, that is a consistent thing. I can be gone from the podcast for months and I still get messages on Facebook Messenger, I get emails, I get Instagram DMs from people telling me that they love my podcast and they appreciate it. And I just want to say that I appreciate you. I appreciate you guys so much, and you're the ones that actually keep me making videos. I'm not making videos. I make videos on TikTok though, by the way, but they're really bad and very chaotic, so probably don't go and watch them. But if you do want to see that side of me, then they're at Celtic_Sian. But my podcast stuff, although it's pretty off the cuff and quite chaotic, is a little bit more structured at least. But you are the type. You're the people that keep me making episodes, essentially. It's not that I don't enjoy it, because I do enjoy it, I love it, but I build it up in my head as being this terrifying, frightening thing, and actually I've had a pretty bad day today, or I had a good day and then it became a very bad day. So I think that quick change of emotions has really messed up with me a little bit today, and I thought, well, what can I do to make myself feel better? So I had a bath, and then I thought, I always feel great when I release an episode of this podcast. I always feel like that's right, like that is the things that's what I want to be doing in my life. I want to be making the podcast. I want to be making that kind of accessible, fun, educational content on folklore, on culture, on history, on that sort of thing. That is what I want to be doing. But, it doesn't... I've got a Patreon, and I would like to say thank you very, very much to all of my patrons on there. It means the world to me that people have decided to support me in that manner. I think that that's absolutely incredible. I cannot thank you enough. But other than my lovely patrons at Patreon, I don't get any money from this podcast. And in fact, all of the money from Patreon just goes back into, I suppose the costs for hosting the podcast, the costs for the various subscriptions I have to, software and things that I help to aid the podcast, whatever. So I don't really make any money off of it, but this is what I feel like I want to be doing with my life, and I don't do enough of it. And I always feel very happy when I upload an episode. I feel very accomplished, I feel very happy, and to see that people are downloading it and listening to it and commenting on it makes me feel really happy and accomplished. So I thought that is what I can do, but I'm feeling really poopy. I'm feeling very poopy today. Now, I don't think I've ever really sworn on this podcast, and I don't want to start anytime soon. I swear a lot on my TikTok videos, by the way, be warned. But my podcast, I've always endeavoured that it should be, does that make sense, that sentence? I've always endeavoured that it should be child-friendly, at least as child-friendly as I can make it, because some of these stories, as you well know, are horrific. Anyway, there's been 4 minutes of me babbling, so let's get on to the actual episode, which is why you're actually listening to me babble on in the first place. And thank you very much for doing so. So I think at this point we are on like episode 21 or something mad like that. So you've heard the spiel, you know the setup of this show, but every single episode I focus on one of the Celtic nations. Now, please get in contact with me and let me know if you think I should start including Galicia and Asturias in that as well. So I feel sometimes like I'm totally excluding this other part of the Celtic umbrella, and that's what Celtic is. It is an umbrella, a very loose general umbrella, and it means a lot of different things to a lot of different people. So, you know, some people see Celtic as simply to do with languages, or simply to do with culture, or simply to do with football even. But it means a lot of different things to a lot of different people. It's a very loose umbrella. So if you think I should start including Galicia and Asturias, I'm pronouncing them totally wrong, I'm very sorry, then let me know and I will start researching those regions and their folklore as well. But suffice to say, we cover the 6 Celtic nations, the folklore of the 6 Celtic nations. And last time, all those 4 and a bit months ago, it was back to my lovely beloved Cornwall. And now we're back to my lovely beloved Wales, because I in fact am Cornish and Welsh, both of which I am very, very proud of. Now, usually we have done the Mabinogion for the Welsh episodes of this podcast. And do I want to do another Monty Python-esque retelling of the Mabinogi? Yes, I do. Of course I do. But I do think that I should cover a little bit more of Welsh folklore, as well as Welsh kind of mythic medieval literature, of which has, you know, completely influenced Western literature and fiction way more than anyone realises, way more than anyone knows. Let me go on another tangent. As you well know, if you've listened to all of the other episodes of this podcast, Sian likes her tangents. I've seen plenty of people recently say things like, oh, Wales doesn't have culture. What culture's in Wales? And I would like to remind those people that the oldest piece of prose literature in Britain, the Mabinogi, is in fact Welsh. And these medieval mythic tales have in fact influenced many authors, including the whole canon of basically Arthurian literature, I would say. But anyway, that is a little tangent and rant for another day, or maybe another platform. Go find me on TikTok. I just double checked and we're actually on episode 22. So there we go. Steaming ahead. Only took me 4 years. 4 years to produce 22 episodes. I'm doing well, don't you think? Right, so let's get into it without much further ado. And I think that this still counts as spooky season. I know that Halloween's been and gone, but the seasons still feel like they're changing. Our brains are still, you know, catching up with the changing seasons. It's still a strange, interesting time early and mid-November, I find. So with that in mind, and I'm still going to say that it's spooky season, let's talk about the Welsh version of the Banshee, the Cyhyraeth. Now, anyone that knows me knows that I'm a bit of a defender of the Irish Banshee. I'm very much of the mind that she is actually much more nuanced and interesting as a figure, rather than just evil hag that likes to jump out and kill you. So that's exactly what the Welsh one is. The Welsh one seems to be a lot more malevolent than the Irish Banshee, the Welsh Cyhyraeth. Let's just delve into the actual etymology of the name Cyhyraeth. It's possibly from the words muscle, tendon and flesh, and then coupled with the words for skeleton, a thing of mere flesh and bone, spectre, death portent, wraith. So there you go, lovely, friendly business, the Welsh Cyhyraeth. So what is this creature? She is a frightening kind of spirit in Welsh mythology. Ooh, little Instagram notification there. I'm very popular, don't you know? And the reason I liken the Cyhyraeth to the Irish Banshee is that she's very much defined by this sort of disembodied, horrible wailing sound heard like in the countryside and heard usually not really attached to any kind of figure, to be honest. So she doesn't really seem to be described as much as the Banshee or as much as the Benai or the Beanie or however you pronounce the Scottish Banshee. There's many Banshees, there's many hags in all of the Celtic myths and legends, which I find quite great actually, because it gives me a really nice guideline in which to kind of aim for the future. I think I'm going to make a very good hag one day. The legends concerning the Cyhyraeth seem to be associated with the River Towey in eastern Dyfed, but also along the coast of Glamorganshire as well. Let me consult my Bible, the Element Encyclopedia of Magical Creatures. That's it, thunking onto the desk. Now we're going to do some page turning noises because I'm apparently getting into ASMR. It's got to be in here somewhere, surely. If they've got Cernunnos, they can surely have the Cyhyraeth. I've got some unpopular opinions concerning the Cernunnos, but maybe I should keep those to myself. Where is she? No, is she here? Is she here? Cyhyraeth. In Welsh tradition, the Cyhyraeth is a spectral woman who weeps and groans before a death or to herald an epidemic or disaster. Where was she before COVID, I ask? Well, actually, there's probably a lot of crying women around, so we probably should have taken notice of them. No one sees her, but her presence is known by the wailing that she makes. There you go. That's why we didn't take notice, because we can't even see her. As I said, you know, her disembodied voice is not really attached to a physical form. She is primarily active in South Wales. Then it goes on to liken her to the Scottish and sort of Irish hag-like creatures as well. Now, I find this pretty fascinating that, you know, these very similar type creatures exist in not only the Celtic nations, but, you know, in all regions of the world as well. You know, white ladies, weeping ladies, crying ladies. My mum watched that La Llorona yesterday. I didn't really pay attention, but my mum was watching it. So that's another example of that type of feminine, crying, evil type of creature. Though, like I said with the Banshee, I don't always think that she's evil, because I think that crying for to tell a death is to come. Crying over a death that is about to happen seems to me like an act of mourning. But the Cyhyraeth seems to be much more malevolent. She's spectral, creepy, frightening, and yeah, I have to admit I probably wouldn't want to come across her on a dark lane or something. Even though I wouldn't be able to see her, her presence would be known to me. However, having said that, apparently in some folktales the Cyhyraeth has also been known to cry and wail for Welsh natives dying far from home. So I like that, and that's also something that carries on with the Irish Banshee as well. I can't remember where I was talking about this recently, but I was talking about American gods and the idea of travelling folklore and that. Oh, I was doing a talk on Cornish piskies recently. I was very, very, very lucky to be asked by the Last Tuesday Society and the Victor Wynd Museum of Curiosities to do a talk on all of the different kinds of Cornish pisky. So that was absolutely fantastic. And I mentioned, as I like to mention, pop culture references, and I brought up American gods and that of travelling folklore, and the examples I used were, you know, Cornish piskies and Tommyknockers being found in American folklore that were taken from, you know, Cornish folklore of mine spirits down the mines. And I also talked about, you know, leprechauns and whatever creatures coming over with immigrants to America, so that, you know, there's now American folklore of these types of creatures. And I love that idea of folklore travelling, because folklore really, you know, in essence, and I've said it so many times, holds up a mirror and reflects back so many things about society and about us as individual people and us as a collective, and that kind of thing. So of course, where people go, folklore will go, and the same types of folklore and stories will pop up, you know, everywhere and across the world. But I like that idea that Welsh natives dying far from home, and of course, much like Cornish miners, a lot of Welsh miners also left to go to America, to Mexico, to Australia, to New Zealand, to Portugal, all of these places that had mines, and we're going to get colonised, essentially, by, you know, the Cornish and Welsh miners helping to do that. Anyway, I'm going to talk about that side of industrial mining heritage, but there we go. But a lot of miners went en masse to these places. So there is a lot of Welsh and Cornish surnames, you know, lingering around in these regions because of that, because a lot of people do have ancestors who were miners. So I like the idea of the Cyhyraeth and that kind of creature, and the Welsh and the Irish banshee, you know, still following these families around and still kind of being protectors and guardians in some kind of way. There's also another iconic Welsh hag, and one I absolutely love, and I'll get into why in just a moment. But there's also tales that get conflated with the Cyhyraeth sometimes of the Gwrach Rhybin. Now this is said to mean basically hag of the mist. Again, iconic. Absolutely love her. She is a monstrous Welsh spirit, very, very creepy. Now, she has much more of a physical form than the Cyhyraeth. So the Gwrach Rhybin is said to be like a quite frightening looking withered old hag. Truly hideously ugly, which makes me think society has never appreciated women. But there we go. Actually, a Welsh saying was supposedly, she is as ugly as the Gwrach Rhybin, but obviously in Welsh. A harpy-like creature with very wizened features and crazy, wild hair. And one interesting feature, this is completely seems to be completely unique to this creature and not like the Irish banshee. She's got creepy, leathery wings. She is bewinged. She takes flight. Horrifying, truly, truly horrifying. Horrifying. I didn't even mean to do that. She's horrifying. Oh my god. Oh, I'm incredible. You can't tell, but I'm patting myself on the back right now. Anyway, she has black teeth, horrible, hideously ugly, crazy, horrible wings, and just flies around crying, to be honest. Flies around wailing, crying, terrifying people all through the mist near Crossroads. Honestly, sounds like a fantastic gig, to be honest with you. Great, great fun. Good for her. Had to edit out so many proper hag-like cackles of mine over the horrifying. And I should have kept them in because they're actually totally apt. Talking about hags, and there I was, horribly cackling. Should have kept it in. But anyway, she basically goes around crying, and one of the common things that she screams is things like, my husband, or my child. And sometimes she will use a man's voice and say things like, my wife. So pretty creepy, pretty creepy indeed. Let me paint an incredibly creepy picture for you. So as I said, she's usually like flying around in the mist and all this sort of thing. But if you're going to die soon, or the name of who is going to die soon can be heard upon her blackened lips. So she's usually invisible, like the Cyhyraeth, but she can sometimes be seen at Crossroads when the mist is rising. So let's just picture that for a moment. Could you imagine going for a lovely little dusk walk? You know, you've just come back from the pub, you're a little bit jolly, you're a little bit merry, you've had a few, and you're walking along the lanes and you're not worried about anything, and then suddenly some horrifying wailing can be heard in the distance, calling your name, and then all of a sudden this winged creature is flying around the crossroads when the mist is rising. Oh, why has no one made a folk horror film of this yet? If they have, please let me know what it is. If they haven't, I will make it. But I'm not sure if I can make it because I'm going to have a conflict of interest. I'll be making too much content about Welsh banshees, which is another reason why I love the Gwrach Rhybin and why I wanted to bring up this Hag of the Mist. So for a long, long time, I've had the idea of creating like a sketch show comedy and the main, or just a comedy series, all of creatures from Celtic myths and legends, and my main character is a Welsh banshee, is a Welsh Hag of the Mist, a Gwrach Rhybin or a Cyhyraeth. I'm not sure which one she is, but basically I use the joke Hag of the Mist a few times. But she is a Welsh banshee who has lost her scream, so she has to go to a support group for screamless hags, and there's an Irish banshee there who bullies her. So anyone that nicks this idea, I've got it in writing, I've got it on TikTok, I've got it here. If it comes out later on, you've nicked my work, I'm gonna sue you. I've got no money, so I probably wouldn't be able to do that. Anyway, do you think it's a good idea? If you do, support me and basically tell me it's great and I'll try and make it happen one day. But anyway, I just love this idea of this screamless hags, and that's what she does. So if I end up making this total crazy sketch or comedy, or this, comedy series one day with my beautiful, lovely, depressed Welsh banshee who hasn't been able to wail or scream for a long time, then I probably shouldn't be making a folk horror about a crazy Gwrach Rhybin as well, because people will be like, do you not have any other content that you can be putting out? Why do you only make content on a very niche creature of Welsh myths and legends? I don't know, a girl likes what a girl likes. Who are you to judge me, Of course, as is the case with all myths and legends from the Celtic nations, there's lots of discourse around whether or not she's a deity or, I get a bit, it's not for me, a lot of these conversations. Sometimes I take myself out of them because I'm not a Celtic pagan, I'm not a witch or a folk witch or what have you, though I have a lot of interest in folk witches and witchcraft, a lot of it in Welsh and Cornish history and culture, so I would like to learn a bit more. But the whole discussions on, she's actually a deity, a goddess, I think can be a little bit naff sometimes and actually don't always fit neatly into Welsh and Cornish myths and legends. Whilst on the subject of Celtic pagans and Welsh mythology, please, 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 if you don't already know Mara Starling, absolutely check out the content of Mara Starling. That's Mhara and then Starling, how Starling is spelled, Starlyng. She's absolutely fantastic, wonderful, wonderful content creator on TikTok and YouTube, but also has just written a book on Welsh witchcraft and mythology, and I think that's going to be available to pre-order. Well, it's available to pre-order now, and I think it's going to be available to buy. Or it's being released on St. David's Day, essentially next year. Is that March next year? Or February, March next year? But anyway, definitely pre-order her book because she's fantastic. She's a wonderful, wonderful source on Welsh witchcraft and folk magic and myths and legends, and has done lots of content on Welsh fairies. So please, please go check out Mara Starling. I think she's absolutely fantastic. And that's the lovely thing here, is that there's a lot of people making podcasts and making TikTok videos and making YouTube videos and writing books on myths and legends and on folklore today, now. It's not just this dusty old-fashioned thing. People will always be interested in storytelling and crazy myths and legends and creatures and all this types of thing. It's always going to be something that we love, isn't it? Let's be fair. And I'm a massive, massive believer. In fact, probably my life's motto or mantra or whatever is collaboration, not competition. I genuinely, with everything in my body, believe in collaboration, not competition. And this is coming from a very competitive person. So if ever there was like a sport involved in school, I was like, I'm in it to win it. I was one of the freaks in school that was very upset when sports day got cancelled. But really, for the most part, everything else in my life, and I try to approach with the attitude of collaboration, not competition. So yes, please don't only ever use me as your one single source for Celtic myths and legends, because I've only got my own perspective. And the wonderful thing about folklore and storytelling is it changes, it evolves, it adapts, and everyone has their own spin on something. Everyone will find different parts and different elements of a folktale interesting or not interesting, or significant or not significant. So we will each tell the stories and relate to the stories in a very, very different way. So it's great if you're doing research for a book, or if you're just interested in these things, check out a wide range of sources on the same creature or the same topic or the same country, because obviously you don't just want to be getting all of your stuff from one source. Anyway, you probably all knew that anyway, but I just wanted to promote other people away from myself, because I know how I'm just not prolific or reliable in any way whatsoever when it comes to podcast uploading. But anyway, like I said, some people have speculated that she was once a water deity and an aspect of the Welsh goddess Doan. I don't know how to pronounce that. Can someone tell me, actually? And is the wife of Avagddu, the despised son of Ceridwen. There you go, that's what the trusted Wikipedia source tells me. I hope you enjoyed this series on Welsh Hags. I absolutely love them, think they're fantastic. I would recommend, though, if you are going for a walk in a misty lane, probably avoid crossroads. But then again, you also want to avoid going off the path, and you also want to avoid the mist in the first place. So maybe just don't walk anywhere. Don't walk anywhere at any point at any time. But one bit of advice that I often give people, and this relates to Cornish pisky, so I don't know about the Welsh Cyhyraeth or the Welsh Gwrach Rhybin, but if you don't want to be pisky-led, you don't want to be led astray on the moors, then turn your jacket inside out, or your sock inside out, or any piece of clothing. Turn it inside out, because for some reason they just don't bloody like it at all. It really confuses them. Or alternatively, you can carry a bit of salt in your pocket, because they don't like that either. Or, do you know what? For a double whammy, do both. Carry salt in your pocket, turn your socks inside out, turn your jacket inside out. They will not know which way is up. And it will keep you very, very safe, apparently. Probably cold and uncomfortable. And maybe attracting flies. But other than that, supernaturally safe. I've realised that my ramblings, to me, if I haven't uploaded anything for a while, I feel like I need to catch up with you all. I feel like I need to fill you in. I feel like I need to talk to you. But to you guys who have just found my podcast, anyone that's binge listening to my podcast or is listening, regularly to me, thank you very much, by the way. Can't believe you like my voice in your ears. But anyone approaching my podcast in that way, for you, you're like, why are you rambling on? I listen to your voice all the time. Just shush and tell me the monsters. So I'm very sorry for all my crazy ramblings, but like I said, I just feel the need that I need to catch up with people sometimes if I haven't uploaded anything in a while. And like I said, I wasn't feeling too good today. I feel a little bit better after this episode, I have to admit, but I'm going to take it easy, and we're just going to end it there with my crazy Welsh hags, and hopefully this episode and any response to this episode will help me make more episodes. Essentially, I have moved. One big thing is I was moving, and I've moved house, and I have a brand new microphone, but I haven't used it yet. I've got this beautiful microphone just staring accusingly at me. I've got all the equipment, I've got a mixer, and I don't know how to use any of it. So I need to sit down and figure out how on earth to use all of this really good equipment that I now have, because I'm still using my battered old Blue Yeti microphone, which is now well over 4 years old. Much older than that. My podcast is almost 4 years old. I had it lying around for a couple years before I started my podcast anyway, and it's still hanging in there. I one time dunked a lot of tea on it and it stopped working for a little bit, but it's doing its job, so the poor thing needs a rest. So I really need to start using the actual really good microphone that I now have. Anyway, babbling on a lot. Thank you very, very much for listening. I hope that you enjoyed this little episode on crazy, creepy Welsh hags. I absolutely love them. I think they're brilliant. And go check out Mara Starling. Go check out a lot more content creators. And if you want this chaotic content in video form, in 1 to 3 minute snippets, then go check me out on TikTok as well as Celtic_Sian. I am on Patreon, as I mentioned, at Celtic Myths and Legends. You can find me on there. I'm also on Instagram at Celtic_Sian. I'm on TikTok as Sian Esther. And I'm also on Twitter. Well, I've got TikTok on the brain. I'm on Twitter as Sian Esther, and I'm also on Twitter as Celtic Myths Pod. And I'm also on Facebook as Celtic Myths and Legends Podcast. So, and if you want to get in contact with me about anything, it's celticmythspodcast@outlook.com. Thank you very much to everyone who is a patron of me on Patreon. Thank you to everyone who has sent me lovely messages on Facebook Messenger and on Instagram DMs and on TikTok and via email. It really means a lot to me to get these messages. And although I am just really terrible and not reliable at all with when and what I upload, I really do want to upload more regularly. I love making this podcast. It means a lot to me. And my big goal in life is to really share this type of, information in a fun, accessible way. Stuff about folklore, culture, heritage, history, that kind of thing. That's my dream and my life's work. So thank you very much for being along for the ride. And hopefully I will make something again very, very soon. Bye!